You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty.
We're like obsessed, crazy people, like, you know.
I think it's hard to replace experience.
I watch this guy every Friday come in. It's kind of a little bit distasteful.
The eyes are right. It's over. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and it's another Taxidermy Tuesday with Jeremy Judkins of Judkins Custom Taxidermy. This is part, I think, 4?
Part 4.
We're just kind of hanging out with Jeremy, and we're asking him lots of questions about taxidermy because it's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And on this episode, we talk about, how do you find a good taxidermist, or what makes a good taxidermist? What makes good taxidermy? And I think you're going to enjoy that one. Before we get into it, I want to let you know that we have a deal with Dark Energy chargers right now. That's the power bank that we use for our backpack hunts.
You've been using it for
since 2015.
I think this is my 3rd season with one, 4th season.
They're incredible.
You can't break them.
Whatever they got going on, it's better than everything we've come across. Yep. And a little tip, we've been using this Anchor solar charger, which we don't get any we don't get paid for.
No kickback, nothing. It's just a product that we've all liked to use.
3-panel solar charger has been incredible. Yep. You can pick one of those up just on the internet.
Amazon, wherever.
Yep. And this thing right here, it's 14 ounces combined with a Dark Energy power bank, pretty much gets us all the unlimited power now in the backcountry. Yep. I think I get 3 charges out of it on my iPhone.
Yep.
But with this solar panel, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's constantly either the power bank is fully charged, or I use it to charge all my rechargeable devices, including my Peaks headlamp. Yep. I charge my phone for my mapping system and other uses.
Everything.
The InReach, my Stereo pin.
I know Ryan is somebody that doesn't talk very much. He is always on his InReach, texting in the mountain.
He only has one friend, and it's his wife. So he is on that thing all day long.
That thing is always charged with the Anchor.
It's always beeping. Beep, beep.
Yeah.
So anyway, check that out. Dark Energy. Use the code Gritty over there. Also, sheep feet. I've got those in my shoes all the time. If you haven't,
he's gonna take his shoes off, people. Don't make him do that.
If you haven't got yourself a pair of sheep feet orthotics, you're missing out. These things are worth every penny. People ask me all the time, is it worth it? Because they're not cheap. But with the code Gritty, you save quite a bit. They are worth it. The reason they're crushing and why because anyone who gets one never regrets it. Yeah. So check out Sheep Feet. Use the code Gritty over there. I do want to mention Borderland because they have a discount code on their antique pack boards that you use for taxidermy or for mounting, and it's 20% off using the code Gritty, and it's a really cool product. If you haven't seen it, go check out the podcast we did a while back. And Iron Mountain skull hangers. We bring it up on this podcast because it's a taxidermy podcast. We figure there's a bunch of you out there that probably have Euro mounts and things that you want to throw up on the wall, or just sheds that you find you want to display in a really cool way. You can find that getting in touch with Iron Mountain skull hangers.
Or at initialascent.com. Initial Ascent Backpacks has them in stock. Their custom order ones are coming.
And then I would recommend using the code Gritty at Mountain Ops and Stealthy Nutrition. Yep. At Stealthy, you can get CBD oil and some performance stuff for gut health, vitamins, krill oil. I take all those things at Stealthy. And at Mountain Ops, I love the energy stuff, like they pick me up.
See, and I do like all the multivitamins. I do like during the wintertime, I always take Immune a lot.
At Mountain Ops?
At Mountain Ops,
I use Renew at Mountain Ops every day, almost. That helps you. It gives you happy poops, So
and the vanilla powder, the protein powder. My wife bakes everything with it. Like those are our healthy snacks because I'm a snacker.
I'm more Ignite, Blaze Shots, and Yeti. Like those are 3 staples. All the caffeine, niacin, all the. This one is the new Yeti mode. Yeah, and it's intense. I like it. It has really boosted my performance both in and out of the office.
I remember before it came out, we were working out. This was like last year, I think. Yeah, and we were given some of it.
It's a little intense. Dang. It's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's for those that are really going to bust bust a move.
I'll stick with Ignite.
So check that out, folks. Hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks for tuning in. You can find more codes and more deals in the description field of these videos that we post on our channel. And it's a win-win. You guys win, we win. You guys save money, and it helps us do our show.
Yep. If you guys have any questions about taxidermy or anything, don't hesitate. Jeremy.
Yep.
He's a good guy.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay gritty. All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and today I am joined again by Jeremy Judkins from Judkins Custom Taxidermy, and I got Brad Hunt over here co-hosting. And today we're going to talk about, well, Jeremy, what makes taxidermy good? Like, how can you tell, and how do you find a good taxidermist?
Okay.
Because I think a lot of guys, I hear stories where guys just regret who they hired to do their taxidermy.
Yeah. I would say when you're looking for a taxidermist, I don't know, there's three things, right? Mm-hmm. Like you got price, quality, and turnaround. You probably can pick one, right. You know, like if you go to a cheap taxidermist or something, probably a reason, and maybe the turnaround isn't very good or the quality isn't.
That's interesting, good. Right? Because that's kind of it in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
It's cheap, but I can get it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And well, and the quality's not going to be great.
It was funny. Sometimes I have to just keep my mouth shut on social media and stuff, but like, you know, somebody was making a post about some guy that did his European mount. He's like, this looks like crap. And I'm like, but you know, it was $100 for an elk European mount. I'm like, okay, like that looks pretty good for 1 hour or whatever. Cause like, I mean, what did you expect?
Right.
Like it's $100 for an elk European mount. You've done a lot of your own European mounts. Like usually you have more than an hour in them.
Yeah. It's pain in the rear, you know, and mine are pretty gruesome looking. Cause I kind of like just like a more.
Like the ones that are from Africa that are just boiled the crap.
They just boil them and for me, you know, whereas you got these super pristine ones like behind you, or you have the beetle ones.
Yeah.
You're talking about a totally different look.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And that's kind of the same with like taxidermy. I mean, people ask like, how long does it take? You know, like, why are you a year out? You know, no, it doesn't take me a year to mount your deer mount, but what are you looking for? You know, is it something that's a once in a lifetime animal that you know, want something really special on, or is it something that you're going to put in your garage or, you know?
I know if it's a cat or a predator or a bear, I really want to look at the work. And when I go and look at some taxidermists, it's interesting. Over the years, I've found like, 1 out of 3 of their cats look good.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they just get it right.
Yeah.
But then other ones, I'm like, I could not live with that in my home, and if I had to pay money for that, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like open mouth mounts, they can make or break a mount. To me, I think, you know, just the look of it. I mean, that is such a hard, natural look to recreate. Yeah. I think, you know.
Well, and sometimes even like taxidermists, you know, myself, like maybe make a suggestion. You know, like we had a cub mountain lion in here the other day that, you know, it's not going to look good open mouth. Like it was one of my favorite mounts like that we've done lately, but it was just a relaxed sitting on, you know, a little shelf log. For that size of a mountain lion, you know, that's what I thought would look good.
Right.
Sometimes I mean, people like different things, but yeah, like I kind of like bears, like either slack jaw or closed mouth. I don't see a bear very often, like unless it's fighting, but a lot of people like to see a mean looking bear.
I got a little bit of both, you know, but I definitely like what you have out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's my favorite.
And I think, you know, just like I say, there's tons of good taxidermists around the country, or even in the state of Utah. That's where we are now. Like, I mean, there are a lot of really talented taxidermists. And I think the coolest thing is with like all of us, we're friends. We're sharing ideas. If I need something, this guy will help me out. If he needs something, I'll help him out. So we're competitors, but we're friends. We try to help each other out. We have I mean, there's numerous taxidermists that have sent me work over the years, and maybe I've sent them. Maybe that I specialize in something that they don't want to do or can't do. So I guess when you're searching for one, look at obviously their work, and maybe you can't see see it.
And I've noticed like some people are amazing at birds, or they're really good at deer or something.
Yeah.
And they're just not on something else.
Well, and that's what I've found, I've done a bird, but I'm not passionate about birds. Like when I'm sitting, we're like obsessed, like crazy people, like, like we sit down at night, we're looking at like pictures of, live animals, and that'd be a cool pose, or that would be like, we're searching for that stuff. Like, you're the same way. You have this passion. And so I feel like with taxidermy, I don't have a passion for, really fishing or birds or bird hunting, even predators. I've never hunted bear actually. Yeah. Like I've never hunted, but I'm still passionate about those type of animals, like mammals, but I think you have to be passionate about it to really get far in it.
And I would say, like, if you have a certain thing like a wolf, let's say, there's guys that have mounted a lot of wolves. I think it's hard to replace experience.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. But I think there's also that level too. Like there's a lot of animals I haven't actually ever had my hands on, but
the principles.
Would I feel comfortable like doing it? Yeah. Absolutely. Like there's a lot of times there's not that much, I guess, difference. It's just studying. But that's the thing too that maybe separates somebody else is like, okay, I might have to study that more, like and take a look at what
in your estimation, what should someone look for when they're looking at a piece of art, a piece of taxidermy, piece of work? Like, what is it that they should kind of take a glance at to go that signifies it's well done?
Well, just if it looks, kind of, alive. Like, most people can see, like, does that eye look right? And again, like you said, you're like, I can look at a mount and I can go, I don't know what it is, but that is, that looks a little off to me.
If the eyes aren't on a predator, especially if the eyes aren't right, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
And there's a lot of things, I've had, like I say, it took me a long time before I felt comfortable to do a mountain lion. It just was like the first, 6 years of doing taxidermy, I didn't have the confidence to take some, your mountain lion and do it. You got to kind of know what you're doing. Like there's not a life size that we usually get in. I don't know, maybe I'm bad at ordering forms or whatever, but we're usually altering them. We're usually cutting them up, like changing poses. And if you're not comfortable with taking, like saws out and cutting everything up, you're going to probably fail at life size predators or anything.
Yeah. What you've got out there is impressive. So, does a guy just go to Google it, or what about shows? Where can he go to like find work that he can just see? Because we were at the Hunt Expo and I could walk around and I could be like, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Oh, I really like that. I like that mannequin that was all set up that Borderland had with the backpack on hiking, I can look at what's there and go, I like what they did here. I think they did a good, did a good mount. And then I can walk past the ones like at Sportsman's where I'm like, I'll never call that guy, or something.
Yeah.
And
no, I think, we talked about this earlier about like go in the field prepared to get a trophy, right? Yeah. Like, so do your homework, before you're there, not like, oh shoot, I just killed a buck of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Google search who's a taxidermist on my way home,
right,
and then show up at their door and
have it all,
drop it off. Like, do your homework. I love it when people, I don't want like everybody calling like, the day before the hunt or whatever, but like do your homework, come in. Our shop's usually always open. Like I'll spend 15 minutes with you, or most taxidermists will.
How many times do you get guys like that have already kind of been like, when I get the next, this is what I want, or do they just show up and you're like, okay, what do you want to do with it? And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, most of the time it's I don't know. Like I mean that's the reality. But and that's the
what
thing
about
too.
like when it's got like a 3/4 sneak, or they've already got some at home, and one's turned to the left, one's turned to the right.
Yeah.
And so they already know they don't want, maybe they just want it straight on or whatever.
Well, I'll talk you out of a straight on one, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but no, like we like to do that. Like I don't care when you drop it off if you know what your pose is, like we can go over that later. Let's get your animal taken care of and then but I do like to usually, I mean, that's part of one of our services is like, where's it going in your house? Like if it's an elk and it's going in your basement and you've got 7'6" ceilings, like we're going to have to do something to where that brisket is not on the floor, so
I see.
So we try to talk to them first and say, I mean, some guys just come in and it's their first deer or something and it's give me the semi sneak looking to the left, but we'll usually talk to them and just say, where's it going? What else do you have in the room? Are you looking for that? You've already got a lot of mounts. Do you want something different?
That's why I like those borderline pack boards.
Yeah.
Borderland.
Yeah, Borderland. It's awesome because you can change up like just the normal.
You can put a shed or antlers that you find. You can put a European, but my favorite by far is like a dead animal mount that's strapped to it with the hooves even, like that sheep was freaking cool.
I know.
Yeah. And then you add into the room, a little bit of old timey stuff to go with the board, and you got a little theme going, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah. There's
different.
I mean, it's kind of like have an imagination when you're looking at it because taxidermy is art, and we want that creative imagination of like how you want this thing. Like I'm not a huge fan of like, well, I shot it in the neck with an arrow, so I want the arrow sticking out of the neck. Like,
yeah, I've seen entire rooms built like that, and like trophy rooms. I'm like, it's not really. It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit distasteful. Some cases. I mean, some people may like it or whatever, but I'm going to try to probably talk you out of that too, because it's, we want to create lifelike, not death.
That's why. That's why I'm like with the bugling bull and stuff. I'm always like, I will never do a mount like that because one, it's hard, and it is so hard to make that animal look so natural. So I'm like, I had a buddy one time ask me, he's like, hey, if you kill this bull in September mid bugle, like you're gonna have it bugling? And I was like, absolutely not, because if you got this giant bull, no matter how hard you try, I don't think you're gonna perfect that elk bugling, like mouth open and stuff.
I don't know. I've seen some that look phenomenal. I think there's absolutely doable.
But I'm just like, for me, my opinion,
it is a risk though, because I think the people who can do it need at least 10,000 hours.
Well, it just brings up a funny thing. Like I was just thinking in my mind, the very first bugling mount I ever did. And it was, the guy was like, I was just excited to get his elk or whatever. I can do open mouth, and it's like straight on semi sneak. The thing looked like it had just got done running like 2 marathons. Like it just looked sick, so, and it is a bugling elk. To get it to look like it's a bugling elk, it's not as easy as, I mean, a lot of times too, that head is back, and an elk has, I mean, that's the other thing they ask, like
go into the wall,
antler clearance, on stuff like that. And there's only a few poses that you can do that look natural. And some of them you look at and you're like, oh my gosh, that looks like he's sick, not bugling.
Right. You see some of those at different shops. I have a friend of mine who's been taxidermist for years. He does great work. But he did tons of contracted work for Cabela's. And when I went to his shop, because they mount the stuff so high on the ceiling and in certain spots, you can't really see it up close. It's all like half done. It's like 70%, 60% work, but you can't see it from where you're at. So there's no point in doing it, because people can't see it. So they just get the side facing the crowd done up, and they pump that stuff out for the different showrooms. But that's where I see often some of the quick and dirty stuff that I don't care for.
Yeah.
Especially like bugling bulls and
stuff.
And
it's hard too. Like, I mean, if I don't know where that's going in your room or how high it's going in your room, maybe, I mean, I don't want to do a deer like this that's going to go 20 feet in the air. I mean, you're not going to see, it looks like he's looking off into 2 miles away. We want him to kind of be at that level that it's going to be displayed, and think about that. Are we going to tilt the head down more so it's kind of looking down in the middle of the room? What's the best viewing point? There's a lot of different options, and just, get creative.
When it comes to taxidermy ideas, I even see this bone tats skull right here with the elephant. And dude, that is so freaking...
Yeah, that guy has tons of talent and is just I got that done when he was like first getting going, though, so I could afford it.
We've talked. Like he'll be on the podcast soon. We're always
awesome.
Texting back and forth and stuff. We were just at Eric Chesser's house the other day from Hush, and we saw one of the early. That's the first time I saw him, was when he did that one buck for him, and I was just like blown away.
Yeah,
that's another cool thing. What are some other taxidermy ideas that sort of you've appreciated over the years?
I don't know. I mean, I've done some stuff that's like kind of off, the wall, like that you normally wouldn't see, like with a few things.
Like this is totally
this
unique.
I did. I mean, this one too. Like I had another one that was an elk in a wallow, like splashing up mud, and I did one of those suspended by the G2 for a shoulder mount. It was way different. I mean, that was a customer one, but get creative. I mean, life size. You have a ton of options for getting creative with life size. Like, is the elk or mountain goat, like, coming down the mountain, and, you can do some different things with just different habitats.
Yeah.
I think habitat work, there's some guys out there that are just phenomenal at like rock work, and
I love that stuff.
Yeah. That's part of the mount, and can separate what looks good and what doesn't. I mean, we do have new, better tools now than what, there was even 20 years ago of making a rock. I mean, when I first started doing rocks, it was take foam and carve it like a rock. And I mean, now we're casting real rocks and piecing those together. And like I say, there's some guys that are just phenomenal at that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And
I think pedestal work too.
Pedestals.
Handcrafted, just craftsmanship, really.
Yeah.
The woodwork.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff,
woodworking and the hands on it. It can make a mount just exceed that much more.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Sometimes you might have more floor space. I mean, we did one not too long ago, like, let's just talk about like Africa, safaris and stuff. You come back and you got, 10 animals.
Right.
Where the heck am I going to put 10 animals, And we did one just a little bit ago for a trophy room that really didn't even take up much more room than this table, but it was we had like a log where there was different branches coming out, and we had like I think 8 or 9 animals on the one thing, and it rotated. So it was like going to be his centerpiece in his room, his trophy room. He has other stuff all around, but this just kind of spun, and rotated and didn't take up that much room for his trophies. So
that's
cool. You can kind of get really creative with some different things. And
I like some of the stuff where it's mounted on a cliff or a ledge up on, on the walls, or even like that bear where he's not completely flat. He's kind of stepping up. And I've seen some where they're standing mostly up and reaching for something. That takes up less space. Yeah.
Yeah. Think about the room, and, like I say, you don't have to usually decide that wherever you take it. You don't have to normally. It's like, we're going to do it life size or whatever. And it's like, okay, think about how you want it, and then let's go over it later and get creative with it.
When you're looking at, with your artistic eye in a room and how it's displayed, what's kind of a layout that you like?
Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
kind of a broad.
It kind of depends on what. Yeah. Like, I mean, I usually like to think too, like future. Like if you're a sheep hunter and you're just got your first or second sheep, you may, but you're going to go, for the doll and the, the
something else.
Stone or something, and you're going to do that in the future. You may want to, think about that when you're starting to place your first and second.
I kind of have an opinion when it comes to mountain goats, when it comes to tar, I kind of feel like if you don't mount the full body, then you might as well just have a skull and a fur or something. Because to me, what makes that goat look incredible is not the horns. I mean, they're just these little horns, but it's the whole critter. It just has this thing about it in full form. A deer, on the other hand, I'm like indifferent. A shoulder mount's perfect. It
suffices,
Yeah, and then sheep, it's like they just got these massive horns and all that bone and stuff. And the body, I guess in some ways, I mean, it looks a little like a deer to me, maybe like a bighorn, different shape, but again, it's not like a tar hide or coat with this. They look like a muskox, like or a grizzly, mountain grizzly or something. And so I'm always drawn to, like, with a sheep, I think I might just prefer the shoulder mount, but with a tar, I want the full body.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's sort of like a Sitka blacktail from Kodiak. I don't want a European mount. You can't appreciate it, but when it's when you see it's got this double throat patch and or it's like a Coos box.
Yeah, Coos.
Like,
I was just going to say Coos.
Like, my Coos, I wish I had mounted
without a cape.
Is it a little whitetail? Like,
totally.
Oh, it does. Like
it means, but when you see it mounted, it has context and it has more meaning to me. Other ones I'm okay with a big European mount for an elk. I don't need the shoulder necessarily.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's kind of how my mind leans. And so I'm really into some of that, the sheep stuff or the goat stuff, not as much the sheep. I don't know if I want a full body sheep, but you might only get one. And then you're like in your whole lifetime and you're like,
cape it for a full body.
Yeah.
And then if you decide, you just want a shoulder, like on a sheep, and that's the thing too. It just kind of depends on where you're at hunting wise. I mean, some guys, they don't think they can afford, maybe a life-size mount. So they don't do it, where it's like, it's going to take us this amount of time to get to your mount, make payments.
Right.
Get what you want. And cause it may only be, I mean, you're probably, if you're a guy like me that's going to draw a tag once in a lifetime or something, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime tag.
Absolutely. There's something about, taxidermy hasn't gotten less expensive. It's gone the other direction. And I feel like a lot of dudes out there right now are going back towards, more of the European style stuff and just getting hides and furs kind of done. And because as taxidermy prices have gone up and up and up, it's kind of priced out some of the.
It has. And that's the thing. I can totally understand it. I mean, again, when I first started out, it's like $400 for a deer mount was.
That's what some of my early deer mounts were that price.
And now they're over $1,000 sometimes, $1,200 so for a deer mount. And again, you usually do get what you pay for, but
nowadays I envisioned when I was, 15 or 20 years ago, a room full of taxidermy.
Yeah.
Nowadays I picture a few select mounts, like a full body bear, a full body mount on a goat, tar. But then I picture a lot of European, which is what I have now, a lot of furs, just tanned hides. I have a lot of skulls when it comes to bears and such. A lot of kind of do-it-yourself type stuff. Tons of that mixed in with some select taxidermy. But when I do decide to do some taxidermy, I'm ready to pay quite a bit for that one piece. So I guess I'm much more selective now, and I'm selecting stuff that when I do it, it's pretty fancy and it's done. Mm-hmm. The rest of it though is the budget stuff, kind of the bulk. And I think that's a great way to go. Yeah. And most of the taxidermists now, like you said, there's a wait. Some guys are waiting 3 or 4 years to get their stuff back. Mm-hmm. A year for sure, most of the time. So when that happens, there's time, like you said, to prepay or to
absolutely
put some money aside, save up. And like you said earlier, a guy is going to come, do his research, show up at your shop. He's never taken, let's say, a big bull elk.
Yeah.
But he expects in the next 2 or 3 years it's going to happen. he can start figuring out what he wants done when he gets his bull. He can start figuring out who, where. He can start figuring out how he's going to pay for it, put some money aside for that down the road.
Well, and for us, at least, like I had a customer one time, came in with a nice deer off public land, and he's like, I just want to do a year. I'm like, you don't want to shoulder mount this? This is a really nice deer. He's like, I just can't afford it. It's like, no, you can make payments. And I watch this guy every Friday come in. Here's $10. Here's $15. Here's $50. And he worked on it all year. And I'm like, that was like the most enjoyable mount I have ever done. This guy appreciated it.
Yeah.
And just
that's cool.
I'm like, I always want to be able to work with people. But if you say God, I really want to life size this, but I can't afford it all right now. Can we, I usually can't hold the price for more than a year, type thing, because our costs may change. But, let's take 2 years and do what you want. Yeah. Like you're saying, there's other options that are cool options with, just skulls, tan the hide, or
I've seen some shoulder mounts that the first I'm like, I would never do a shoulder mount out of XYZ. And then I saw one, I'm like, well, that's 2/3 less cost. And I'm finding I'm just as thrilled with that option as I would be this super expensive one. And so I think if you get creative, you can find something that really tickles your fancy, but also meets your budget.
Well, I was going to ask you too, is since we just got done with the Borderland podcast, was on a taxidermist side of things, how much more or less is that going to be?
The pack mounts, like you were talking about with
Coulter.
So if we were doing an actual mount of the head and displaying it on there, honestly, it'd probably be more than just a standard shoulder mount, because his pack frames are what, 300 to 350 or something.
Yep.
So, and there's usually just as much.
You still have to mount.
The
sheep head, for example.
And that's
you
what
still
I was
have to do all the work.
You still have all the detail work.
I mean, that's the hard part. Is getting that cape prepped, thin down. You still have to thin the lips. You still have to thin the eyes, do ears, and things. And that's usually the hard part on the shoulder mount. I mean, that antelope.
Not from the neck down, really.
No, I mean, I can sew one from the neck down and 30 minutes or whatever. Right. So really your cost is probably more, but when you do that incorporated with a skull mount, now or sheds or whatever, now you're a lot less.
Yeah. He had ones where it looked like, he caped it all the way. So you have your ram head right there on the pack, and then you have just the hide, just rolled up and tucked in there, or the bear, kind of in there, no skull, no foam.
Yeah. That stuff is definitely cheaper, like I was thinking that would be perfect for one of those bears you have out there, it's just roll it up. You don't need to necessarily mount the head and have it, the head inside it, just
the claws kind of sitting out.
Just kind of like that. And, or just even whatever, a caribou hide or something, that you rolled up in there, and maybe even the skull on top of that, or deer hide, like a deer cape rolled up, and then the actual skull, on it, and you can do stuff like that.
I even thought about, a little blood on the skull, or whatever.
You can do, get a
little artsy with it.
Depends how artsy you are to make it look real.
Right.
Again,
yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
You can't just lacquer over the top of a bloody head. That won't work.
I don't know. Well, ask your
taxidermist. Formaldehyde, dry it out. Yeah. But no, there's a lot of options, and you got to think about what room it's going in. I mean,
here's one for you. How do you convince your wife you need that mount?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Trip to Mexico.
Yeah, something.
Teach their own, right? Because I talk to Lampers all the time. He's got a couple of mounts, but really his whole house is just skulls and furs. And any money he would put into maybe a mount, he really wants to put into a hunt, another trip. And I totally get that. But for me, I love the taxidermy enough, at least a certain couple of mounts I want to have done. And I get so much enjoyment of that thing being there in this room that I'm creating. That's kind of my space. That for me, it's worth it.
Yeah.
I actually get so much enjoyment out of it that's absolutely worth it. But for some, not so much. They're like seeing that there or looking at it. Like I come into your shop and I'm like, I just stare at stuff for hours and hours, and I notice things about it, and I like it.
Yeah. I ran into this, like I've got a lot of nice bull elk over the years or whatever, and it's like I cut the horns like, oh, I'll mount this one day or something, but now it's like I don't have time, so it's like, but they're hanging in the rafters. I couldn't even remember what year it was that, and I'm like, that's a nice bull. I want to see that. So I pulled down a few of them this year and put them just on a plaque mount so I could hang them up. Like just a simple plaque mount. The skull was already toast. I like European mounts, but let's do a plaque mount. So at least I can look at it and remember that, that day where, we had a tough hunt and,
I find myself, I like that. And when you look at it, you remember that trip. That experience.
You remember it. So,
but there's also just appreciating like what it is. You don't get to be this close to a live buck.
Yeah.
Or bear. Like that bear in there is awe.
Yeah.
It's just awe inspiring. When you stand next to it, you're like, I don't want to bump into that in the woods. And you just find yourself just analyzing it and looking at it over. And for years, I have a one that's a giant that's basically mounted from the crotch up, and it's, coming out of the wall. So it's still got some of the lower legs. It's not like your normal mount. You almost don't notice that it's not a
full body.
Full body. Yeah. And you just look at it, and I sort of never tire of analyzing it, and I think it's just in our DNA from just to be fascinated by animals in general. And even though there is a sentimental story attached to it, there's also just this, I think, natural fascination that many of us have for mammals. And we just want to, there's something about when you take an animal and you're walking up to it for the first time, it's now yours. Shane Mahoney talks about possession, like the human desire to possess, break it down, to consume it, but also to have it. There's this thing in all of us. It's like you walk up, there it is, and then you put your hands on it and you're looking at it, and you're just that thing that seems so unattainable with your bow and arrow not too long ago that you've been trying to get for 3 years in a row as you're targeting the same buck forever. And when you turn it into taxidermy, you're just sort of extending that moment in your own home where you just really, really look at it. And for me, I just get a lot of joy out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like I say, going back to picking the right taxidermy, like you want to enjoy that for the rest of your life, type thing. You want your kids to maybe enjoy it.
And that's why I like that mix too, because I have tons of bear skulls and some of them really big, and just having them all out on display. Each one's so different broken teeth, worn down to the nubs, some are big skulls, wide, long, narrow. And it's just, I don't know, man, there's just something about having that. And I like skulls and horns and Europeans because you take it off, you touch it, where taxidermy sort of sits on the wall. That's why I just think the mix of the two is the best.
Yeah. There's just so many options, and I think you need that. I think you need both. And I think just that, like everybody doesn't have a 2,000 square foot trophy room. Right. So you do have to be kind of selective. I mean, I have a lot of animals that I've mounted and they were pretty good mounts and just don't have room anymore. I tear them apart, we don't want you guys to do that or whatever, but that happens. So kind of be selective and then have some of those European mounts or plaque mounts or, just mix it up and get creative. And,
I'm like, so I got my 200-inch buck. I mounted that buck. Everything else is a Euro or even skull capped, and then it's like, I got a couple good bulls, but nothing. I'm like, no, that's not worthy to mount yet. So I'm waiting on that bull.
For sure.
No, any of them. It's like I say, some of my favorite mounts are different things, we mount 2 points or spike elk, and stuff. And it's like, I love it when a guy comes in, he's like, man, I've been hunting elk with my bow for 7 years and I finally got a spike. Like, I want to mount it. Or a cow moose. I've got a cow moose this year, and it's like, that's awesome.
My dad's first archery blacktail was a forked horn blacktail buck on the coast. we got that mounted, and it's at the house, and it's turning. It doesn't feel like it fits into the room with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just like every time I look at that, I remember my dad and I in that tree stand together, and he took his first buck, and how cool it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's I regret, like, on my coos not mounting that, because any other animal I've taken, I've never experienced the whole whitetail shake. You know, I make fun of guys that, why do they get so shaky? When I shot that coos, I felt that. Like,
dude, it's a nice coos with a bow and
80,
arrow.
It's almost 85-inch coos, which
or over the counter tag in the tough
that's
area.
The thing too. Like I don't know about you guys, but some of my best, in my opinion, best trophies might not be the biggest one, but man, that was like, you know, hard hunt last day or whatever, and just I mean, I shot the biggest deer in my life this year, and it was a phenomenal, fun weekend, you know, with my son and stuff, and I'll never forget it. But you know, I've also worked a lot harder for, you know, some animals that like mean more to me for the just the pursuit, and
not the size,
not necessarily the size, but
there are animals I have mounted because of the method of take, the challenging conditions, the unit, the everything that goes into it is much more of an accomplishment for me. It's personal. Sure. And I may have taken much bigger animal on another unit, but it wasn't that hard. I had a pretty
good
stellar
tag or whatever.
Whatever it was. And it's like, that just doesn't hold the sentimental value that this over here does. And so I tend to mount based on what I feel was an accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much more than the beauty or the size of the animal.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of taxidermy that a guy might come in and go, why? You know, it's about that accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and most people, you know, don't have huge trophy rooms. You know, they draw a tag, and, you know, once in their life for an elk tag, they get a nice bull or something, and
that's it.
You know, that might be it for a branch antlered bull. That might be their only one or whatever. But that's the cool thing about it. There is, like I say, there's a lot of guys around here that have talent. There's a lot of good taxidermists that may fit your needs. And, you know, I wish I could help everyone, but I can't have everybody in the, type thing. But then in the other states, a lot of your guys' followers and stuff, like they're going to be, you know, maybe they'll ship something here, even if it's just a European mount. Like I say, sometimes a lot of taxidermists like me, if you shoot an antelope that's a mature, good antelope, and you just want a European mount, like save that cape, do what we've talked about, and get some credit towards that European mount.
Yeah.
Through your taxidermist.
Cool. So if people do want to hire you, they just go to Judkins CustomTaxidermy.com.
Well,
give you a call?
No, usually you'll call and set up like, hey, I've got this, or want to bring it in. We do a lot of stuff that's, you know, exotic stuff that may be like, okay, I just got back from a hunt in Africa. You know, we want that stuff shipped here. And you can just get a hold of me, like usually phone. I only check my emails like once a day, and it's usually at night. So,
but they can call you.
But they call me usually, or leave a message and stuff if I don't answer. But I mean, I try to tell people too, like, just come in, like, you know, see what we do. I mean, I'll take your animal, even if you just say, I haven't decided yet who I want to use or whatever. Like, I'll skin it or put it in my freezer. I'll take care of it. Come look, you know, like see if we fit or not, or.
And right now, I mean, turnaround times are a little bit out there. A guy who, no matter where you go right now, you're going to wait a little bit of time, be prepared for that. But that does give you time to sort of figure out like how you're going to pay for it or whatever.
Yeah. And we have a lot of guys too, like, I don't know. To me, I'm like, I want to see and hold that deer, even if it's not mounted, you know, type thing. And, you know, we'll take the skull plate back and bring it, you know, when we're ready to mount your animal.
Yeah.
I'd prefer that anyway. I don't have to store as many antlers.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
kind of thing. So,
that's so cool.
But yeah, well, it usually is. I mean, we're probably we're over a year, you know, right now. Normally we try to be under a year, but it's
scaling a taxidermy shop is tough.
Yeah.
And I think any type of high quality artistic endeavor, that's going to be the case no matter what.
Yeah.
Like scaling art is just a big challenge.
Yeah.
Well, and like I say, we have a good team here, and we do, but it's hard to get a team together, and it is, there's just not that many people that, I trust or can trust to do some of these animals. And so,
well, we kind of scratched the surface with this series on taxidermy with you. Appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I want to do is come back and kind of film, a day in the life of or something. Like get some video of a project that you're working on.
Sure.
On a couple of stages. And I think that would just be interesting to see. So definitely want to stop in again. But yeah, folks can find you on Judkins CustomTaxidermy.com. The links are in the description field of all of our videos, and they can call you. I would say if they want to visit you, you're just south of Salt Lake?
Yeah, so we're in Sandy. Yeah, it's
so just for people who have a general idea, if you live in Utah, about where if you wanted to swing by, you're right around
southeast part of Salt Lake County.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty.